Lincoln took office when the nation was already cracking. He didn't start the war, but his choices made it inevitable. America was young, growing fast, and breaking from within. North and South followed completely different rules and futures. Slavery wasn't just moral, it powered all of Southern wealth. Each new state reopened the same burning slavery question. Today, Lincoln is remembered as a great liberator and hero. At the beginning, he looked nothing like a hero at all. He was not a radical opponent of slavery or revolution. He never promised immediate abolition or quick emancipation. His main goal was actually far simpler than people think. Above all, he wanted to preserve and keep the Union whole, even if that meant accepting a temporary compromise. He believed politics could still prevent violence and war. But the space for any compromise was shrinking very fast. Lincoln sensed danger long before the war even began. The conflict was coming whether he wanted it or not. The nation was drifting steadily toward collision. After Lincoln's election, the South made its move quickly. State after state began leaving the Union behind them. Not through Congress or any legal debate or process, but through what they called unilateral secession. Lincoln now faced an absolutely impossible choice ahead. He could allow the nation to break apart into pieces, or insist that the Union was permanent and forever. Lincoln chose to hold the nation together at any cost. He declared secession unconstitutional and illegal. This was not intended as a direct call to war, but peaceful exits quietly disappeared one by one. From that moment on, conflict became inevitable. The first shots were not fired in Washington itself. Yet responsibility fell on Lincoln almost immediately. He never intended to lead a nation into war. He inherited a conflict already in motion when he arrived. Every delay now cost human lives across the nation. Lincoln ordered nationwide mobilization of troops. In reality, it was a leap into the complete unknown. The North was not ready for such a massive war. Its army was new, inexperienced, and disorganized. Lincoln had no military background whatsoever. He had to learn strategy while fighting the war itself. Night after night, he studied detailed battle reports. Defeats weakened his authority and political power. Political pressure came at him from all sides constantly. Lincoln understood clearly what defeat would mean. A broken Union meant nothing less than the end. The war dragged on with absolutely no end in sight. Preserving the Union was no longer enough for anyone. Lincoln searched for some kind of deeper purpose. Gradually, one single word emerged: freedom. This was cold strategy, not idealism or sentiment. He waited carefully for exactly the right moment. A weak move would look like desperation and panic. Only a military shift could support such a bold move. When that moment came, he acted without hesitation. The war became transformed into a war for freedom. Thus came the famous Emancipation Proclamation. It did not free everyone everywhere at once, but it changed the entire meaning of the war. Compromise became nearly impossible after this. the world began to see the war very differently. Europe hesitated to support the Southern cause. The North itself became divided over this decision. There was no turning back for anyone now. After this, the war became a fight for survival. Defeat meant permanent collapse of the nation. Victory meant the birth of a different nation. Both paths were absolutely irreversible. The cost of every decision rose ever higher. The point of no return had been crossed. The war grew longer and far more brutal each month. Casualties exceeded all expectations and shocked everyone. Nearly every family in America felt the loss. The South collapsed completely economically. The North suffered too, but endured much longer. Former slaves fled in numbers to Union lines. The Army changed in purpose and identity completely. Pressure on Lincoln became constant and overwhelming. He reviewed casualty lists by the thousands. Calls for negotiation grew louder every day. Compromise now meant betrayal of everything. The choice became simple and terrifying at once. Either continue to the very end, no matter what, or stop right now and lose everything gained. Lincoln chose to continue despite the cost, even knowing the consequences would be historic. The consequences were indeed historic and lasting. Many weren't ready for such a devastating price. Events moved beyond anyone's control completely. The war was ending, but peace remained fragile. Lincoln believed the worst was finally over. In April 1865, he attended the theater. A single shot ended his life in an instant. The nation fell into shock, grief, and silence. The president was gone, but the war remained. His death complicated Reconstruction immensely. Without him, compromise became even harder. The nation lost its leader at a critical moment. The consequences lasted for many decades. Lincoln is remembered as the great emancipator, less often as the man who let the war continue. He preserved the Union at an immense cost. He never lived to see the peace he sought. His decisions held the nation together firmly, but the price of those decisions was devastating. This is not a story of a flawless hero. It's a story of choosing with no good options.